don't even care about you. Like, why would I care about your great-grandfather? Oh my god. Oh my, this man is written by a woman. Hello everybody, I'm Rhea. Welcome back to my channel. This is Reread, and today we're going to be talking about all the books I read in June. I do apologize for the random generator sounds in the background, and I promise you that my content is going to be more important than what's going on in the background. This month I read 16 books. 2 of them were nonfiction, 14 of them were adult, and 2 of them were young adult. And in the future, I am going to try to read more young adult. I think it just kind of got away from me this month. I didn't really keep track. And I also read 1 arc. I read 2 contemporary, 3 romance, 2 science fiction, 3 literary fiction, 2 historical, and 1 fantasy. The first book I read was The Abundance of Katherines, and I am seeing John Green this fall, so I wanted to read of his backlist. And I decided to start with The Abundance of Katherines. It's his first book, and I didn't want to read his most famous book, so I just wanted to find like whatever his best book was. And I read Paper Towns in middle school. I didn't like it, but that was long ago, so I was like, fresh start, you know. I love John Green so much. Like, I grew up in Crash Course. I follow him on social media, and I love his goal of just like educating the world. Such a gift to humanity. And I didn't like Abundance of Katherines. Abundance of Katherines is about this teenager named, I don't remember his name, but it's like the summer of high school, and he just got broken up with this girl named Catherine, and he's only dating Catherines in his life. He and his like best friend go on a road trip, and they stumble upon this like town, and they have like an adventure there essentially. And I really like the vibe of this book. I think John Green, just in general, is such a gift. Like, the way he's framed this coming of age and this main character moment for 2010s like teenagers is revolutionary, and it is cyclical because he gets influenced by these teenagers, but he's also influencing teenagers. And I really truly would not have grown the way I did if John Green didn't exist. I was like in late elementary school when like the big kind of Fault in Our Stars, like coming of age John Green was like really a thing. So I grew up, I went to middle school thinking that this was going to be my coming of age, and I read An Abundance of Katherines now, and it's very dated. I'm not saying that is like a bad thing, it's just such a specific time. I don't think these books are going to be classics, unfortunately, but I do think they encapsulate what it's like to be a teenager in the 2010s, and that is so beautiful. And to feel so understood as a teenager is truly like the greatest gift. I'm going to share a quote from the Anthropocene Review, which I, spoiler, later read and loved. This is from the essay notes app. This line always reminds me of being in 11th grade, lying in the middle of an open field with 3 friends I loved ferociously, drinking warm malt liquor and staring up at the night sky. Does that not describe a John Green book? Like, that is the feeling he's talking about when he's writing those coming of age, and that's the feeling I get. And I love that for him, and I love that for everybody who gets that from him. I gave Abundance of Katherines 2.5 because I appreciate what it's trying to do. I think my main problem was that like this character, all of John Green's characters are just so pretentious, and fits the vibe, but I just could not read about him. I was like so done. And the adventures and the stuff he'd have, it was just not fun to read about because I didn't like the characters. The next book I read was Will Grayson. And because I didn't like An Abundance of Katherines, I was trying to find, okay, like what is the next book? Because like Will Grayson is the next chronologically. My rule is like if I don't like a book by an author 2 times, then like I'm out, that author is out. So I was like, okay, I need to find like the good John Green book now. I like watched this video, this person ranking the John Green books, and she put Will Grayson like at the top, and I hated this. Mostly what I hate about this is that just nothing happens. This is co-written by David Levithan, who I'm pretty sure wrote Every Day, and I've not read that. And this book is about 2 Will Graysons who live like a town apart from each other, and they're both named Will Grayson, and their lives intersect in like a way, but like it's not interesting. John Green's Will Grayson is like a guy in high school. Like, I don't even remember what his plot is, but it's a coming of age for him. The other Will Grayson, written by David Levithan, is very like depressed. I don't even remember. I do not remember what happens in this book. I do not remember if it's important. That's why it's 1.5, because I just do not care. And because of my experience with this book, I was like, okay, like I guess I'm just done with John Green's fiction books. But because it is co-written, I feel like I can make an exception. I put up a poll on my Instagram, and most people told me to just like give up. I am still planning to read The Fault in Our Stars though, because at the end of the day, I'm still meeting John Green no matter what. Not meeting. I don't know if I'm gonna meet him. I'm seeing him and I'm hearing him talk. So like the more context I have for his stuff is like the better it is. And after that, I read Great Big Beautiful Life, Emily Henry. I've loved Emily Henry ever since 2022, and I picked up her new releases every year, so this is another Emily Henry summer, and she's blessed us. Great Big Beautiful Life is about Alice. She's going somewhere to interview this really famous person, heiress. She was in like the rich person like scandal stuff, and she was famous, and then all of a sudden when she was old, she just kind of vanished. And so Alice found her, and Alice wants to write like her memoir. She goes there, and there's like another guy there, and it turns out they're like competing to see who will write the memoir. So we get instances where she's interviewing the heiress, whose name is Margaret, and then because the island is so small, she just like runs into the guy. I had a really good time with this book, and I love the romance. Like Alice and Hayden, I love them. I just like love Alice, the main character, so much. She's very like positive, bubbly, but it's not in like an annoying way. It's just such an endearing way, and she constantly has run-ins with Hayden, and he's like annoyed by her, but like he becomes endeared by her too because she's so genuinely nice. Literally half the book is about Margaret and like her journey and like her story, and I didn't care about it. Even the way that like this woman is telling her life was not interesting, and it like comes in to play in the book. Like there's a plot point. She would like start off talking about like her great grandfather. I don't even care about you. Like why would I care about your great grandfather? The song I have for this book is Supernatural by Ariana Grande, and it's just like very whimsical, magical. Another solid addition to the MHAN universe. Everybody's Emily Henry rankings is so different and so unique, so you know, please share yours down below in the comments. Mine is Philomena Vacation, and then Happy Place, and then Great Big Beautiful Life, and then Beach Read, and then Book Lovers, and then Funny Stories. The next book I read is an arc. This is Fake Skating by Lynn Painter, and I am so glad I got this arc. Last year I really tried to get her Nothing Like the Movies arc, and I couldn't. So that's how you know we're moving up in the world, as we finally get the arcs we want. And I had the best time reading this. And Fake Skating comes out in September 30th, I believe, and we follow Danny and Alec, who are in high school, and they were best friends when they were kids. Danny moved away like, I don't know, like 5 years ago, but now she's moving back. Something happened between them because they're not acting like the besties they used to be. Danny is like a bookworm, smart girl, and all of a sudden Alec is like this really popular hockey guy, and she's like, what? But there's an attraction towards each other, and they were previously best friends, so there's a lot of angst, and it's great. It's like everything I wanted except for the last third, and I'm going to put out a review for this when it comes out on September 30th, so stay tuned for that. I love Better Than Movies and Nothing Like the Movies, and this book is just like those combined, but worse. Alec is definitely the best Lynn Painter love interest, and you know, I can't wait for you guys to meet him. And the family drama was just really good, and I loved the setting. It was in Minnesota in the spring. This town is like really into hockey, and so like I just love the vibe of that. Like they go to hockey games and they have parties for like hockey games, and it was really fun and unique. And I'd say the song for this book is Cool by Gracie Abrams, and I also have my own playlist that I will link. We're going back to John Green. The next book I read was the Anthropocene Review, and this so far is my favorite book of 2025. I love John Green so much. He's such a gift to humanity. The Anthropocene Reviewed is a collection of essays written by John Green about like random things, and at the end he like ranked them. So it's just him talking about like how these like objects relate to humanity and everything. And I am such a cynic. I do not believe in humanity at all. And the fact that John Green still believes in humanity gives me faith. I just really appreciate him, again, sharing all this knowledge and stuff. And also what I appreciate about John Green is like nowadays I feel like knowledge and education is something that's like, if you don't learn this now, like in school, then like you're done. I don't really specifically remember John Green's like whole like lore, but he's a guy. Like I don't remember what he went to college for, but he's had so many different jobs, and right now he is just like a YouTuber, but also just like an educator, it just reminds me that like you don't have to like go through all this schooling and stuff. Like you can be educated. A lot of things that we think about now, we think that they are inevitable, permanent, but like humanity and like the things we created aren't permanent. He talks about like lawns, like those are pretty recent, but we all just associate lawns with like, oh, that's just something you gotta do. But it's like, who told us that? I love finding about like the history of stuff, but I just don't know where to start. So I think this book is really great for that. It's just a constant reminder how everything is changing and that nothing is concrete. Like all these things we made up. My favorite passages were Wonder, Canada Geese, Air Conditioning, CNN, Monopoly, Bonneville, Salt Flats. I don't love anthologies typically, but like this one like is so good. And the thing about the anthologies is like some you're gonna like some of them and you're probably not gonna connect with much with others, but I appreciate how grounded and how put together everything in this book is, even if it's just like a random essays or like stuff, because everything in humanity is connected. And I will say, I don't know if a book was like the best format for this, even though I gave it 5 stars and I loved it. But I do know there's a podcast, so if that's something you're interested in, I can't believe I'm gonna like see him and like hear that. The next book I read was Star Splitter, and this is a young adult sci-fi book about this girl who like wakes up on a planet and she's like, what am I doing here? How did I end up here? And like you come to find out that like in the future you can like travel across the galaxy through like teleportation stuff. Her parents are like on this spaceship trying to like be scientists, and she's like gonna go with them for something. And you follow her as she's like trying to figure out where she is and like what the situation is and like how she ended up here when she's supposed to be like on a spaceship. I really like any kind of like sci-fi story where it's like one person trying to survive. I'm thinking about like Project Hail Mary or The Loneliest Girl in the Universe. I thought the tension was good. There's dual timeline. I don't remember the ending, but I thought it was underwhelming, and I also just don't really remember a lot from this. Next book I read or reread was They Called Us Exceptional by Prachi Gupta, and I took off the cover for this. This is my favorite book I read last year. It's a memoir about this Indian American girl who grew up in like the late 90s, 2000s, and her coming to terms with all the expectations that are put on her by her parents, but on society. And I really love her exploration of this. As a young Indian girl myself, there isn't a lot of representation for finding a way into this world. It was just so therapeutic because she talks about experiences I didn't even know were relatable, and her life is just like thing after thing. It's the second time I read this and I was still like shocked. I still cannot believe the things she was going through. But all out of that is like a testament to her writing and the way she's able to describe everything, and the way she's able to call everything back by the eternal question of like the model and the minority myth, which is just like, why are we doing this? Why is everybody telling her to be perfect? And it's because immigrants are really often pitted against each other. Indian or Asian immigrants are held to a higher standard by society, and it has a lot of ramifications, not only on immigrants specifically, but their children. And she really tackles a lot in this. And this is like my favorite kind of memoir, where they're able to recount their memories, but also provide commentary on what they were going through at the time. In other memoirs I read in this month, like it's just a kind of a recollection of everything, and that's totally fine. Like write whatever memoir you want to, but I just prefer stuff that like ties back to a bigger picture. This is my favorite memoir of all time, and I would highly recommend. The next book I read was Martyr. It's an adult literary fiction about Cyrus, who is a writer in his mid-20s, and his mom died when the US military like made a mistake of shooting down a civilian plane in Iran, and his dad died because of stuff that he thinks is like not meaningful. He's like obsessed with not necessarily living a good life, but like having a good death and like that meaning something. He's like pretty depressed now. He's an alcoholic, and so he's like going through it. And so he comes across this art installation in New York where this woman is dying, and the installation is just like her talking to people. He talks to this woman, discuss like what it is to be alive and what it is to die, and like what kind of meaning does your life or death have. And I really like this. A thing that kind of disconnects me from this book is just like the addiction part, and I don't like reading about addiction. It's like one of the hardest things, obviously. It's really hard to read about. I don't really remember the ending, so I can't say if it's good or bad. I'm pretty sure it was like fine. It's family drama, and I was very surprised by it, and I was more so surprised at the way everything unfolded after the reveal happened. I did really love the writing of this book, and I will be reading more of this author's work. The next book I read was The Frozen River, and this was like on the Goodreads Choice Awards, but it was every time I like tried to get this from my library, I was like 200th person in line, and I was like, I don't know what this book is, but like I'm seated. The Frozen River is a historical fiction that takes place 10 years after like independence from Britain and the US. It's about this midwife who like found this body in the river, so there's like this trial case. I mainly read historical fiction for like learning because I'm really bad at history. The main woman in this book is like a real person who existed, and this is like a fictionalized version of what happened, and I was just more interested in their life and like the society in this village and everything. I didn't really care about the murder, but this book was just so long. I just did not care about like half the stuff, and I would recommend this if you're looking for like historical fiction for like 10 years after the independence. Like I don't think I have anything else I've read like that. The next book I read is Evenings and Weekends, and I again got recommended this book by Carrie Can Read and Jack Edwards. I like this book. If you like messy characters, I would definitely recommend this book. Evenings and Weekends takes place over a weekend in like this heat wave in June. Fitting, right? I read this at the perfect time, and they follow like a couple of different characters. There's one woman who like she's pregnant from like her boyfriend, but her boyfriend is like kind of like bad and like messy. He's like going through something of his own. There's like connections between like these four characters, but they all have such basic names. I low-key did not make a lot of connections when I was reading it. I was like, I don't remember how these people are related, but I'm just gonna read on. And this was like so fun. Like it reminded me of like a Charlie XCX song. I thought this was gonna be like party girl, like okay, like everybody's like messy, like having fun, but then you like get introspective and it's like, oh, like okay. Did not expect that. It was a lot of drama for one weekend, and then I also had to realize this is only one weekend of their lives. Jack Edwards was saying how like he like felt these characters are real and he could see them living like life. I don't know if I'd say that. I'd say that they're written well. I don't know if it's realistic, but like I mean I don't care about that. With these characters' intersections and everything, it is a nice reminder that like everybody you meet has their own life and has their own stuff going on. I feel like everybody in this book is just so in their own head. The tension in this book was pretty good, so the pacing was pretty good. The River Has Roots. I really like this book. This book is essentially like a short story fairy tale, and it has illustrations in it, which is just so magical. You follow these two sisters, and I'm pretty sure the way they live, like the trees are magical, and it's kind of like a gateway to like some kind of like fairy world. I don't know if it's fairy, if it's just like magical, but we follow the one sister as she like explores the world and she gets caught up in this romance. And most of this book is just about like sisterhood, which is so nice to read about, and it's just it's so wholesome. The illustrations took it to the next level. Like more books, specifically more fantasy books, need to have illustrations. Like if we can have maps as books, as things, we should have like official illustrations. Somebody make that a thing. Like it has to be a thing, like a special edition at least. And the next book I read is another sister book. I read The Nightingale, and I love this. And I specifically chose this book because I thought I heard something about a movie adaptation, but I've been looking at it now and it seems like that was like a couple of years ago and nothing's kind of happened. So I would love for this to be a movie, and I think it would really be successful, so I'm just putting that out there. We follow two sisters in World War II in France. The oldest sister is like, I don't even know how old she is. I think she's like an 8-year-old child, and she's living in France as a housewife. Her younger sister is like 16, I want to say, and she's like a troublemaker. She's been like kicked out of a lot of schools. When this war happens, her father sends her to her older sister's place. These sisters don't really have a great relationship, but this book is about these two sisters living through war and like contributing to the resistance in different ways. The youngest sister is like so rebellious in like a teenage sense, but also just like for the war. She's like constantly doing whatever she can to help the rebellion and everything, and it was just so inspiring to read about. I couldn't really imagine her as a real person, even though she was like incredibly badass. Since page 1, she was like, I hate all of this, Nazis get out, and she was like really fighting to get France back, and so inspirational. Like anything anybody asked of her for the rebellion, she would say yes, no matter how dangerous it was, and it was so dangerous. I like couldn't even read her parts because it was just stressing me out. Older sister, who's the housewife, she is very reluctant to get involved in resistance, but slowly she like finds a way to do it. Her story with like coming to terms with the fact that France is taken and is gone and like she's not getting this life back is just so interesting to read about, and like her being influenced by her sister to help in the rebellion is just very inspiring. And any book about war is just so inspirational because it really makes you feel like you're in survival mode, and it really makes you wonder what you would be like in war. The reason why this was like also really meant for me is because there's like a dual timeline, and there's like a girl in the future in like 1990 whatever, and we're trying to figure out who she is this entire time, and I love any kind of dual timeline. I'm like figuring out how to interconnect. The ending was like so good. It was sad but also wholesome because of the future person. I wish that the sister relationship was more fleshed out. They felt like sisters, they argued like sisters, but like they could have been two different women. The song I relate to this book is Cardigan by Taylor Swift, which is just a very like nostalgic song. When you're young, you know, they assume you know nothing, which I attribute a lot to the younger sister because like nobody's listening to her, and it reminds me of like war. I don't know, the song is just like very nostalgic and like yearning, and that's how I feel like a war would feel like. The next book I read is The Favorites, and oh my god, this book. I read this book in one sitting. Like, that is an accomplishment. I gave this book 3.5 stars, but like, know that I read it in one sitting. We follow this skating couple in like the 90s, 2000s, and they were like an amazing skating duo, and they like took the world by storm because of their skating, but also because of their relationship with each other. And we follow like years after their like Olympic scandal, there's this documentary that's being made. The main character is not involved in the documentary, so I'm not entirely sure where her point of view is coming from, because she specifically says in the book, like, this is my story, I'm gonna tell it. After her chapters, we get like the documentary part of like what happened, and so we get like a commentary from like all the other side characters. This book is also a adaptation of Wuthering Heights. I don't know if my problems with the story are with Wuthering Heights or if it's with the execution of this like skating dynamic. I was gonna film like a review on this, but I don't know enough about Wuthering Heights to like make the connection. So I will read Wuthering Heights hopefully this year, and maybe we'll get a video, but I just really don't understand this better. I would recommend this book if you like Spinning Out on Netflix, which is like one of my favorite Netflix shows. It's about like the skating world, and like specifically the main character like really wants to go to Olympics, but then like something happens. She has to like do pair skating with this guy she doesn't like, because like the main characters' names are both Katharina. Like I really just imprinted and took her and put her in this book because the Netflix show got canceled, and this is my living out my dreams if we got more of this show. I don't necessarily recommend books for like getting out of reading slumps, except for this book, because this book, the way it's written, like every chapter has a cliffhanger, and it is very like go, like nobody stops. Everything happens, and it just keeps happening, and it's just like a cycle. And because of that, it very much felt like I was binging a Netflix show, and I think that a show would definitely be a better format for the story, because what I like about books is that you were in the main character's head, so you get more introspection and you get commentary, and like we really didn't get that much. Also because like the characters are pretty one-dimensional. They pretty much just have like a personality trait and you just go with it, and their relationships are also very one-dimensional. Even the main relationship in the book between Katharina and Heath, I don't really understand why we only got Katharina's perspective. I really wanted to get Heath's perspective. It was also just weird because Katharina was just such a strong character in the first half of the book, and she's like, I'm not going to take shit from anybody. I'm like, okay, you go girl. And then as the book goes on, because everything kept happening to them, and she just kind of accepted it at the end, and she didn't really fight for it, which is like a message in of itself, I guess, because she like figured out what was fighting for, and like, okay, because of the cyclical nature, it felt like both her and I were getting tired, and I was just like accepting things that were going on. She was like, yeah, me too. I feel like she was also getting tired of her own story. This book ends like pretty wholesomely, but it's just so weird and so not what the characters would do. The next book I read was The Dream Hotel, and this is so far my favorite fiction book of the year. I've seen this get a lot of buzz on Instagram, but I know with Cindy also recommended this. Our main character gets taken at the airport because her risk score is too high, because they think she's planning on killing her husband, and she gets put into this, again, not a prison, but is a prison for what they say is 21 days, but she's been there for like 10 months. Like, it's actually insane, and it's very much like a commentary on like the prison system, which I am very much not familiar with. And anytime I would read about stuff in this book, I would just get enraged. Regardless of whether or not you agree with the prison system, the people here are innocent. Like, they didn't even commit crimes, and they're still being held in the center. What really blew my mind is the fact that they use dreams to figure out if you're gonna commit a crime or not, and like how violent those dreams are and everything. And the main character willingly like signed up to put this thing in her head so she could get better sleep. Like, she willingly signed away this contract to give away her dreams, and it just really made me think about like so many things in my life that I willingly just give up. And like, I make YouTube videos, I have social media, like I know that content is being trained to use AI, like, and I'm like actively doing this. I would love to have more books in this world, even though it's like way too similar to our world, but I would just want to see, is the outside world safer? Because that's the reason why they're doing this, is so they can keep the people in the real world safe from these future crime committers. I was surprised we got one perspective from somebody from the outside, and I was really hoping we get more. And the things she revealed in that chapter were like also very much like mind-blowing things, and I really just want to read more about this and how controlling people is really helping people, and the writing in this book is so good. The next book I read was Just for the Summer, and I have not read the other two books in this series, but because it's like an interconnected standalone series, it's fine. Justin posted on Reddit this whole like story, and in it he mentioned every girl he's ever dated has gone on to break up with him and then find like their soulmate after him, so he's always like the one beforehand. And so our main character Emma sees this and she's like, oh my god, like this happened to me too. So like they start talking, texting. They decide, okay, we both have this curse, so if we date and break up, then we'll find the one after that. And it's just like, you know where this is going. This book is definitely like an emotional roller coaster. If you read the first two books, you know what the reveal is, and like you're just waiting for it to hit. I had no idea, and so when that happened, I was so gagged. That added so much to the story, and I really appreciate what the main character and what the author was saying about anxious attachment. In my real life, when I've met people with anxious attachment, it like really fascinates me because that's not who I am at all. Justin is the man. He like adopts his siblings to take care of them, and he sends out this questionnaire of like what you want to do during the day, and he sends you a survey after for like how he was in the day, and it's just like, oh my god, this man is written by a woman. I didn't really feel the chemistry between the two characters, but it's fine. And I really love the cast of characters in this book, and I love it when the romance main character has like a best friend, and this one was really good. The last book I read is nonfiction memoir. I'm God My Mom Died. I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I finally got the chance. And because I've been interested in this story, I've seen video essays, I've watched TikTok. I really know her whole story before I started reading this book, and I wanted to read her book. I wanted to hear from her story. I don't know if watching these video essays was the right thing to do, knowing that she literally made a book about it so she could tell her own story. I wasn't reading this book for shock factor, which is what I think this book was mostly about. I don't really know who the intended audience was for, but I assume it was for her fans, and I assume it was for parents of kids who want to be in the industry, or like children who want to be, not children, this book is definitely not targeted towards children. I thought this book would be a conversation about like her role in the industry and like how she thinks about it, and it definitely is like a factor. The biggest thing in this book is a relationship with her mom, who was like narcissistic and abusive and everything, and that was really hard to read about, especially since she writes the book as like from when she was like 5 years old to like now. She doesn't provide like commentary, like it's literally just whatever she thought when she was like 5, that's what happened, and whatever she thought when she was 10 when she was like auditioning, that's what happened. So there's no real commentary on those situations, which is fine. Write your number however you want to, and I'm here for you. I was kind of confused when I finished this because I didn't really understand what the message was. What I think it was honestly just for her to share her story, which is amazing, and I love that for her. And I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation about like moms and parents' roles in child stardom and everything, and I know she's contributing to the child stardom conversation. I just don't know if she wants to, because she doesn't talk about it that much. The thing with this book is it doesn't give a lot of context for what happened. Like she would talk about like her commercials and like her success on iCarly. If you weren't there at the time, it's really hard to imagine how big iCarly was. And I didn't watch iCarly, I was too young. I remember how big iCarly was vaguely, and I can like look at it now and recognize how famous it is, but I feel like if you don't know the context of a lot of her stuff, then it's hard to imagine. And I don't know if she was interested in like painting a picture, because this is about her story, but I did feel like it was kind of missing something. I feel like everybody who's ever read this book has given it 5 stars. I'm not rating her life, I'm just rating the book and like my preferences and everything. So I definitely think this is an amazing memoir. It's just not my favorite. So that's all the books I read during June. And please let me know everything you've read and what your highlights were. Please remember to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Instagram. Bye!